What is going on YouTube? It's your boy ThunderBuddy29 here, and yep, I am back today with another video. So I haven't made a Fortnite video for the past 2 weeks now, and as we are at a pretty good point in Chapter 3, I kind of wanted to do a ranking video just ranking Chapter 3 seasons from worst to best and what I think of them. But this time, I don't want to use Tier Maker. I want to do it in the old-fashioned way, the way I used to do it back in Chapter 2. The last time I have done a ranking video like this was over a year ago back in Chapter 2. So how this works, I'm going to rank Fortnite seasons from worst to best, starting from bottom to top, like number 4 being the worst and number 1 being the best. So without further ado, let's begin, shall we? Starting off this list, we got number 4, Chapter 3, Season 3. This was definitely not a surprise for some, because I have made numerous videos talking about why this season was so boring. I mean, it was both naturally and frustrating, but I can honestly say it was mostly naturally because like after a few weeks, it already had gotten boring. Even though the loot pool was actually balanced, but like I said before, it was not that interesting, it was not that exciting. I mean, the shotguns were still shit. The snipers were still ass, even though the DMR was actually a decent sniper. The SMGs were still spammy and annoying as they were 2 seasons before, even though I was very grateful that they took one of them out in the middle of the season, but I was not happy with the SMG they replaced it with because the Charge SMG, this gun has arguably got to be one of the worst guns that was ever put into the game, one of the most useless guns ever. The ARs was the only thing about this loophole that was actually decent. The only thing that was fine about this loophole. And on top of that, you had skill-based matchmaking, which is why you had so much third-partying go on that season. It was so out of control, it happened almost every single time. And also, during most of that season, there were barely any new content. There were barely any updates. Hell, even the March Through Time event and Rainbow Royale 2.0, they were basically recycled versions of the events they had done last year because they were completely the same. And then you had the Dragon Ball Z collab, which it was an okay collab, it wasn't that bad. The only thing about it I really did not like were the overpowered mythics. Even though Dragon Ball Z is mostly known for having overpowered mythics, but my god, they didn't have to be as strong as they were. Hell, they were even more overpowered than the Marvel mythics from Chapter 2 Season 4. Looking back at it now, it's why I still continuously debate, was this season worse than Chapter 2 Season 4 or was it worse than Chapter 2 Season 6? Honestly, I don't know. I'll let you guys tell me in the comments what you think. Vibin', more like dying. And number 3 on this list, it'll be Chapter 3 Season 1. Kinda similar to Chapter 3 Season 3, but it was less worse than that. This was the first ever season of Chapter 3. But I do have to give it to them. They actually had a pretty good start in the season. And it was actually pretty impressive that they were even able to set up this new chapter in less than 24 hours after ending Chapter 2. But despite all that, the season would start to go slowly downhill. Because as time would go on, it would start to once again get boring like Chapter 3 Season 3. Both naturally and frustrating. It was naturally boring because they had barely updated the season, and all we had to show for it was a couple of weapons get put into the game, and then you had Tilted Towers return for the first time in 4 years, and you had constant collab spams, which many of them were clone collabs, like you had 2 versions of Spider-Man, for example, and that's really it. And the most frustrating part of the season that constantly annoyed me the most was when people constantly sprayed and prayed with the MK7 and Stinger SMG. That was the most popular combo that was so overused to death during that season. And meanwhile, the shotguns were still trash as they always had been since Chapter 3 began. The map was alright. It was actually a decent map. The Uzi SMG that got put in later in the season, now that was definitely a good SMG that I wish we would have saw more in Chapter 3 as time went on. Despite most of the season being boring, both naturally and frustrating, I still think this season was definitely a good start to a new chapter. Number 2, Chapter 3 Season 2. I'm not gonna lie to you, on the first days of the season, I was not liking it, especially that disastrous launch where it took me almost 3 hours to get into the game because I had to wait through like 4 different wait queues. But thankfully the launch was not as bad as Overwatch 2's. And you had the tanks, which were also very annoying and very overpowered at the start. But as weeks would go on, the season actually started to get slowly better and better. Fortnite was finally doing things that I thought they would have never ever attempted to do, like adding in a no building game mode and a building game mode separately. Now that was a very good, interesting change up. And on the second week of the season, they added in an Anvil rocket launcher, which was basically a different type of rocket launcher we had never seen before. It was the type of rocket launcher that could lock onto vehicles, including the overpowered tanks, which you finally had a weapon to counter the tanks, which means the tanks were no longer overpowered as they were on the first week. And the loophole was kind of exciting. These change-ups were so insane, it was actually starting to make the game fun again. But the question is, why is this not in the number 1 spot? Well, for a few reasons. First of all, they brought back a couple of OG guns, which I was happy about as well, but I was not happy with what they did to them. They basically disgraced their legacy. They brought back the LMG, which I was happy about, but I was not happy with what they did to it. I mean, it was only effective at close range, but at medium to long range, it was completely trash. They also brought back the heavy sniper, but they nerfed it to hell, even to the point where the other sniper was doing almost the same amount of damage as that, which that was kind of embarrassing. And second of all, the constant collab spams, including in the battle pass. And number 3, you had the same SMG spray meta that basically dominated the last season, and on top of that, having 2 SMGs that did that. And then you had the MK7 return later in that season, but thankfully they nerfed it. The jetpack was the only OG item that they brought back that they did not screw up. But overall, this was still a pretty decent season. It was the first time in a long time I actually started having fun playing the game again. And number 1, Chapter 3, Season 4. Now this season was definitely the definition of mid. This was the most mid season I have ever played in a very long time. Even at the beginning, I was very mixed about it. They finally added changes to their game that should have been done a very long time ago. Like they finally got rid of the spammy, overpowered SMGs and replaced them with SMGs from Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. And they were not overpowered or underpowered. I know this will probably be an unpopular opinion, but I'm happy that they had finally fixed the snipers and actually made them useful again. The loophole is actually pretty decent. The only thing that I really don't like about it is the shotguns are still shit as they had always been throughout all of Chapter 3. And the chrome stuff that they put all over the map, it's kind of weird, but it's kind of cool. The chrome weapons are alright, but the only things I really don't like about this season was the lack of changes to the map and the skill-based matchmaking system, which is why this season has become so sweaty. Now honestly, this is a mechanic that needs to be taken out of the normal game mode and be put in a competitive game mode only. But other than that, this season has actually been pretty decent. It had a really good start. The season is actually playable. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention the explosive goo gun. I think it's a decent explosive weapon, and I like it because it puts more challenge to the game. But other than that, pretty decent season. Epic, well done. But what do you guys think about this list? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed or if you agree with this video, please like this video and subscribe, share this video with your friends, and click that little bell if you do not want to miss another video. I love y'all to death, and I appreciate all this massive love and support that you've been giving me. You all are the best, as we are now closing in on 5,210 subscribers. I love y'all to death, and thank you all so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe for more. And until next time, I will see you all in the next video. And this is ThunderBuddy29, sign off.